Hey folks, today is May the 23rd, 2017, and today I celebrate my 4-year post-transplant anniversary. Now, it's a day of celebration as well as a day of commemoration. I'm going to talk to you about that as well as my 4-year journey when we come back. Stay tuned. Well, hey, everybody, welcome to the Transplant Helper Podcast / YouTube video series. My name is Jim Merle, and as I stated just a moment ago in the teaser, today is my 4-year heart transplant anniversary. May the 23rd, 2013, I received the greatest physical gift of my entire life, and that was the gift of life, the gift of receiving a heart transplant that will allow me to survive. And you may even see the t-shirt I'm wearing here. Maybe I'll make it where you can see it, I don't know, but it says, "I got my heart at UAB." That's UAB Medical Center in Birmingham, Alabama. And I'm always proud to see this t-shirt. This will probably be the first or second time I put it on. It's got all the signatures of everybody that cared for me in the hospital, as well as some family members. It's a treasure, no doubt about it. But I'm wearing it. It's a little bit too big now because I've lost some of that fluid weight, but nonetheless, I've got it on. Now, let me say also before we get into anything else that I want to extend my greatest level of gratitude, thankfulness, and all the other words you could use toward my donor family. My donor's name was Dickie. He was a 50-year-old man who had a wonderful heart, and I mean by a spiritual type of heart, a wonderful heart, a wonderful soul, a great caring attitude. He was well loved and beloved by everybody that he came in contact with, and again, just a great guy. And Dickie lost his life, however, obviously in a tragic accident back in 2013. And since that time, I've been so blessed to have gone out and physically met face-to-face his family, his mother, his sisters, and cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, and everybody. They live in Oklahoma, and I won't give any more detail than that, but he was from Oklahoma, and so that gift of life was extended all the way from Oklahoma way over here to Alabama, and I'm thankful for that. But I got to go out and meet them back in 2013, not too awfully long after my transplant surgery, and it was a wonderful time. I did the little thing now that's become so popular where, you know, you allow the donor family to listen to the heart, or, you know, in that case, heart or lungs, I guess is all you could detect. But in my case, a heart, they listened to the heart. It was a very emotional time, but I know a wonderful time for all of us, and got to spend a lot of great quality time getting to know them a little bit better face to face. Since that time, to me, as great a blessing, if not a greater blessing, is that I've been able to maintain contact with that family, several of the sisters, but especially the mother, Dickie's mama. I talk to her usually on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, as you know, whenever time allows, and we can kind of get our schedules together. But we talk usually for 45 minutes to an hour on those occasions. We have great conversation. You know, we just know each other. We're just family. And as far as I'm concerned, I think about Miss Louise. That's her name. I think about Miss Louise as my heart mama. I've got a physical mother who I'm still blessed to have on this earth, but I've also got a heart mama who I'm blessed to know and to have even now. And so let me say to Miss Louise or anybody else who's watching this from the family, as I always say to you, Miss Louise, in the end, usually in unison with my family, my children and my wife get together and we say simply, "We love you, Miss Louise," and that's the case today. So it's great to be able to sit down and just think about, to commemorate such a day as this from that side, that perspective. Now, let's jump into the other side of it, a day of celebration. It's been a good day for me. I'm about to spend time with my family. You know, see all of them. Everybody's congratulated me, patted me on the back, said they continue to pray for me, or whatever goes along with that. But it's been 4 years. Today it's been 4 years, and so I just want to take time with you and reflect back tonight as I record this. It's late at night. It's actually after midnight. I've moved into the next day technically, but I want to reflect back with you tonight about the 4 years that I've already passed through, and I want to put a word with each of those years that can hopefully ring true in my mind, so I always remember them for what they are. And if you're a pre or post-transplant patient, this may give you some insight as to what transplant life is like. It may give you some insight as a post-transplant patient, or some camaraderie where you can say, "I know exactly what you're talking about." I've been there, and as I say, am currently doing that. Now, with that said, if we back up to year number one post-transplant, I would describe that in one word as a year that was intense. It was a year of intense pain. I can remember coming out of surgery, and even though I was, as we jokingly say, high as a kite and strung out on all these pain meds, when those things started to wear off, I had the most intense, terrible pain of my entire life. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that. That pain went on for quite a while, for several weeks to an extent, and for several months even beyond that, although to a more minor state. But it was a year of intense pain. It was a year of intense worry and anxiety and fear, basically, because as you're a new transplant patient, in your mind that you've got to adjust to life. And while you're adjusting to life at the same time, there's always the fear out there that we might, end up with rejection or end up with some infection. Of course, immunosuppressed and all. You could get into those facets of transplant life very quickly, and it could take a turn for the worst. And so, you think about that and you're worried about that. And I think to an extent, as a transplant patient, having that little bitty level of slight anxiety or a small level of fear is in a way something that helps us to survive and helps us to live, because, we're always on our toes. We're always thinking about the possibilities and what's next. And although we don't necessarily hold the future of our lives in our hands completely, we feel like that the things that we do can greatly affect our lives physically, and there's no doubt about that. So it was a year of intense pain, a year of intense anxiety and worry. It was a year of intensity as far as the learning curve. Being a new transplant patient, for me especially, was an entirely different experience. I was a congenital heart patient. I was born with a birth defect, so I had never known life with the blood flow, basically, honestly, and with the ability that I now had the opportunity to have. Now, I wasn't healed completely, and we'll talk about that more in a minute, but there was a learning curve there. I had to learn to deal with all those medications and all these things that I had to do and watch for, but I had to also learn to live. To say, hey, this is new to me. This heart right here, this is different than anything I've ever known. And so there's a learning curve there. And I encourage you to participate in the learning curve and learn from your experiences and such as that. Number two, and this is year number two, word number two. Year two was a year of impatience. A year of impatience. And by that, I mean, I kind of made it through the first year. I was over the worst of the worst, so I thought. And so now, in my mind, by year two, it was time to do everything. Time to go everywhere, to be everywhere, to do everything, to anything I'd ever dreamt of doing. I wanted to do it in year two. And I had to learn very quickly. I couldn't be so impatient. I had to be more patient in understanding that although your body has healed and the wound is closed and the bone is mended together, and there are a lot of things that had already gone very positively for me in that point, I could not be impatient. I had to pace myself, which I didn't do very well at all, but I needed to pace myself, at least I'll say it that way. So it's the second year for my standards and for my experience, is a year of impatience. Year three, which is the year that hadn't been out of as long, but year three for me was a year of improvement. A year where finally, without thinking about it sometimes, I would just realize that, wow, life is different. Life is better, is so much improved over what it used to be, and things were just altogether. I was in a stage by year three where I just hadn't experienced that kind of life before. The ability to run and to play with my children and spend time with my family, to go and to do and to be a part of so many new things. It was a year of tremendous improvement for me. And I want you to keep in mind, if you're a pre-transplant patient especially, that there's going to come a time and there's going to come a day when that improvement is going to set in. And if you're like I am, I can't pinpoint and say, okay, this is the day, between this day and that day, that's when all the improvement came. As a matter of fact, I'll be completely honest with you. It was during year three when I began to realize that I don't necessarily think about this all the time. Now, I'm always grateful. I'm always thankful for my donor and that family's gift to me. But honestly, the only time I thought about my heart transplant in year 3, because of the improvement that had been made, is when I stepped out of the shower. You get out of the shower, there's the mirror standing there in front of you, and you look, and here's a scar, and you think, wow, that really did happen. That really was a point where obviously my life turned, it changed. There's that much improvement involved. And then here we are, just having passed through year 4. Year 4 for me was a year of inconceivable possibilities, and just inconceivable. I can't imagine what life would have been like without this gift that I received. I can't imagine what life, I was assuming life would not have existed. 5 years ago, the doctors thought or believed I wouldn't have life by now. But because of the gift, it's just been inconceivable. You can't even focus. You can't even imagine all the things that have come as a result of this gift. And so I won't go into any more detail than that. That's good enough. So year 1 for me in review was a year of intensity. Things were difficult. Year 2 was a year of impatience. I had to learn to pace myself and to do only what I really could do and not just what I thought I could do. Year 3 was a year of improvement, where you notice the markers. You say, wow, things are different. They're better. And then here we are in that 4th year, finishing up that 4th year. It's an inconceivable year. I just can't imagine having life without things being as they are. The gift of this transplant, I'm eternally grateful for it. Now, I just want to tell you right now that if you're facing transplant, I want to encourage you. The life is eventually worth it. And I use the word eventually carefully. It's eventually worth it, because you'll go through a process, something similar to mine, and you'll realize one day how great this gift was to you. Now, obviously, post-transplant patients, some of you are saying my life was much different. Others are saying, I know right where you're coming from. I feel you on all those points, and maybe that's the case. Anyway, I just want to share this with you, again, to both celebrate and commemorate my 4-year mark as a heart transplant patient. Stay tuned until our next program, and stay stronger, friends.